Guys, look, today I feel like shit today. Physically, I feel fine, but mentally, emotionally, I just feel down. I feel beat down. I feel tired. I feel a little bit discouraged. These are things I don't talk about a whole lot, but it's actually fairly common. It's so common that my wife just calls it entrepreneurial PMS. And I think there's some truth to that. Whether it's because I'm an entrepreneur or a high achiever, I think this is something that a lot of high achievers deal with as well. We get down and we get discouraged and frustrated from time to time because we aren't experiencing the results that we want to see, we aren't having the success that we'd like to see, or it's not coming as quickly. Things aren't working out the way that we want them to, or the expectations that we have for how these things, quote unquote, should work out. And we get discouraged and beat down and beat up. And of course, there's some fatigue that comes from running around ragged, trying to do everything, solve all the problems, and really thrive the way that you, as a high achieving man, have a desire to thrive. So I thought I'd share with you a couple of things that I do personally to get myself out of this feeling, start feeling a little bit better, and ultimately get back into the things that I want to be doing and the responsibilities that I have for myself and other people, namely during this time, especially my family and you guys who follow along with what we're doing, and the people that I care for, that I love and care for. So I would say the first thing is, if you're feeling this way, maybe it's just time to mix it up a little bit. Maybe disengage. Jocko, for example, would call it detach, but disengage just for a minute so you can get some perspective and some clarity on what you're doing. When you're so entrenched in the activity and you become obsessed and you're not taking a break and a timeout and backing up and disengaging for even a short period of time, it's easy to lose sight of what's important. It's easy to lose sight of how to progress and move forward, and you're not really seeing the bigger picture. You're so ingrained into that activity that you lose sight of everything else that's going on around you. So detach, get yourself into a new environment, unplug from the computer or social media or whatever it is that seems to get you down. Just detach and get yourself into a new environment. Go outside, go for a walk, do an exercise, spend time with a friend or a family member, watch a show, read a book, something different maybe than you're typically used to doing. You got to mix it up. You got to change it up and get a new perspective. So that's number one, is detach. And number two, engage in a hobby. And this kind of ties in line with detaching a little bit. But for me, archery is something I really enjoy. It gives me the opportunity to just be silent and focus on one thing and lose track of everything else and just be very, very present in that moment. So archery's been good. Jiu-jitsu has been a great thing for me. Unfortunately, I'm not practicing jiu-jitsu now because our gym is shut down. And actually, maybe that's part of the reason I'm not feeling as awesome mentally as I typically do, because I don't have that outlet. So in the wake of things that have changed and will continue to change, and we have this social distancing going on, make sure that you have a hobby, that there is an outlet. For men, I think specifically physical outlets, so working out, walking, hiking, archery, jiu-jitsu, if that applies. Like I said, it's not as relevant maybe now as it was even 3 weeks ago. But having that outlet is going to be very, very important for you. And again, it's going to allow you to focus on something else, detach, and just lose yourself in something that doesn't require as much maybe brain power as you're typically used to exerting. I actually like puzzles. I like to read. So those are ways that I can detach. And then the third thing, and I might have a couple more tips here as I think about this, but the third thing that I would suggest is start writing down everything that needs to be done. I know for me, when I get frustrated and discouraged with the direction and where things are going with the business and my family and everything else, it's because I have so many ideas bouncing around in my brain, and I have no way to let those things loose. Not to forget them, but just to document them so that I don't have them bouncing around in my brain, so I can focus on the one thing, the task at hand. So I would suggest, if you're not already doing this, that you need to document things. You need a journal. You need to write down your tasks, your assignments, what needs to be done. And I have an app on my phone that I use. I use our battle planner. I have field notes that are in my desk over here. They're in my nightstand in my bedroom. They're in the glove compartment of my truck. So I have them everywhere because as I think about these things, I write them down. And writing them down for me is very therapeutic. If I'm feeling a certain way or have a certain lesson that I've thought about, like I will write that down with a pen and paper. I will journal that, I will document that, and getting it out of my mind and onto paper is very therapeutic for me. But if we're talking about tasks and assignments, it gives me a track to run on, a path to run on. Because I've noticed for myself and thousands of other men that we've talked to over the past 5 years is that it's very difficult to feel down and beat up and discouraged when you're actively working towards something engaging and meaningful to you. So engage, write those lists down, document all this stuff, and then figure out a course of action and how you're going to engage and move forward and be productive. The other thing I would suggest as we're talking about hobbies and detaching and working on these things is I think this is a pitfall that a lot of people fall into when they're so ingrained into the self-help, self-development world. All that stuff's wonderful. It's all great and important. But if it's producing the opposite result, which is frustration, heartache, envy, jealousy, all these other things that sometimes we experience as we see other people achieving, then obviously it's not serving you well. So the way that you combat that is that you begin to find meaning and significance in the activity itself. So you're not doing an activity solely for the purpose of achievement to accomplish some objective or task, but you're doing it because there's intrinsic value in the task at hand. So for example, when it comes to reading a book, instead of reading a book so you can check it off your list and read 100 books this year, why not just read a book because you find it intrinsically valuable? Like there's no goal, there's no objective, you just enjoy reading. Instead of working out so you can get a PR, and look, I'm not saying you shouldn't do this stuff. There's a time and a place to achieve and hit PRs and have goals and objectives, but just something else to consider. Instead of training and working out to hit a PR or have some sort of strength objective, why not just find the intrinsic value that's built into working out that makes it meaningful and significant in the moment, regardless of what result that you produce. So it's reading books, it's having conversations with people, it's working out, it's engaging in hobbies, it's working on a project. My son and I are working on building a desk for his Legos right now. We repurposed an old shop desk and we're in the middle of building that. We got about 20-25% of that done, and so we're gonna be working on this afternoon. And I find value in that. Outside of having it complete, like I just enjoy being out there and cutting the wood and trying to figure out how to make it work and being creative with how we're gonna take this old piece of furniture and repurpose it and how much can we salvage and what is not worth salvaging, and then teaching him just because I like it, I enjoy it. And I think a lot of us have, especially high achievers, have a tendency of getting so wrapped up in the goals and the objectives that we overlook the enjoyment, the fulfillment of the activity itself outside of any goal or result that it produces. So these are some things I do. Hopefully it helps you and serves you in some way, in some capacity. I don't have this all figured out. Again, I fall into this on a somewhat predictable cycle, it seems like. And I think anybody who wants to achieve at big levels and wants to do big things and is ambitious and motivated and wants to create something of his life is going to experience this. So it's a little counterintuitive what I'm sharing with you today, to not focus on goals and objectives, to detach from what you think is important and what you want to accomplish, but it served me well and it will continue to serve me well. So I've got a podcast that I'm going to do with Crispy today. So that podcast will be coming out soon. I'm excited about getting that out to you guys. And then after that, I'm going to go build with my son and create a new environment and have some fun with him because it's intrinsically valuable, and we'll come back to the battle, to what we're doing here in the business and everything else that I'm trying to do and accomplish, recharged, rejuvenated, and with a better attitude. So anyways, I hope that helps. If you have some tips and thoughts on what might help you when you're feeling this way, physically, mentally, emotionally, just drop a comment, let us know. This is a great opportunity to serve each other, and I think we've all got good ideas that have worked well, so somebody will probably see what you write and be inspired by that, and it will serve them in some way too, which is important. That's the whole point of what we're doing here with Order of Man, is to collectively share our tips and ideas and resources so that we can all improve as men. Anyways, guys, I hope that helps. It's gonna help me. I'm gonna do that this afternoon, and then we'll get back to it. See you guys.